also real optimistic and real passionate about it. So I came to that first show, and the turnout was great. I even told her, hey, the turnout was awesome. But it has like nothing on this turnout tonight. So definitely want to congratulate y'all on the progress y'all made thus far. So let's give them another hand of applause. And speaking of the turnout, there's a lot of y'all in there. And, I'm a bit nervous. This is my first time, so I really need y'all to excuse me because I ain't never done this before. So depending on how this goes, I might not do this anymore. So I'm gonna really try my hardest, not to come up here and sound like garbage. I just really wanted my transition to be so smooth that y'all didn't even know I already started. You see, y'all gonna have to excuse me because it's something I never did before, and depending on how this goes, I might not do this anymore. So I'm gonna try my hardest not to come up here and sound like garbage. I just wanted my transition to be so smooth that y'all didn't even know I already started. But anyway, let's not. Okay, I did get an applause. Cool. Let's not talk about me though. Nah. Maybe we'll do that later. But right now, I'm gonna need y'all to do me a favor. See, I'm not a poet, I'm not a rapper, I'm not a writer, I'm not any of those things. I really need y'all to do me this favor and hear me out for a second. Maybe even understand what I mean. And those y'all that already know me, y'all already know the deal. Like, I'm not with that fake shit, so y'all already know it's real. Y'all already know it's real. So while I'm up here trying to get comfortable and, trying to see how this feels, would you mind if I just talk to y'all for a second? Well, good, and I will. I tend to get real bothered these days. And that's something I don't like to do, but I won't let it turn me into someone despiteful because I managed to crack the code to that vicious cycle. And I'm going to share it with y'all. And I'm going to share it on purpose. You see, I'm not a preacher, so this isn't a sermon. I just happen to want to share it because I know that it's worth it. But why am I nervous? I really am nervous. Is it that I'm uncertain whether or not I'm talking about the innocent or the ones that deserve it? It's a question that keeps repeating in my mind over and over as if I'm trying to rehearse it. And I'm going to need y'all to excuse me if I can't seem to refrain from cursing because it's difficult for me to match that emotion in person. Because I'm talking about the youth today. Primarily the males, primarily the black ones. The ones that'll bring a gun anywhere with the intention to use it. Yeah, I'm talking about that one. The ones that have the nerve to abuse and disrespect our women. Yeah, I'm talking about that one. The ones that can easily take another brother's life for something as small as $20 or no reason at all. Yeah, I'm talking about that one. The ones that spend so much time trying to be the plug and trying to be the connect, trying to develop that street credibility in hopes that it'll get them respect. So they waste the majority of their life trying to chase the checks. So when they look back on their life, they only see regrets. Now, I understand that nobody is perfect, but half of them are hurting. And when you look at why, it's because they keep putting themselves through it as if they knew it was worth it, and they do it every single day, even though it ain't working. But why is that, though? I feel like it's because a lot of them lack the knowledge to make the right decision, but can they even tell it's missing? Do they even know the difference? Half of them don't even know what it meant to commit, so they couldn't make the commitment to find the discipline in them, so it just goes unwritten. And I know this isn't TV, but I gotta ask you, are you watching? Are you listening? Because I don't need to refer to a square of entertainment, that's a television. I said I don't need to refer to a square of entertainment, watch me tell a vision. So just listen for a second, if you don't mind. Bars. I want to paint the description of a lot of the causes that are actually the fault of the system. The enforcers of the system, they're called officers, but a lot of them rather be called something different. Now, there are plenty good ones out there, don't get me wrong. But the bad ones are the ones that want you to change how you address them because they're the same ones that believe that they're in a different profession. Let me explain. So many of them think that they're bartenders. The way they keep giving these boys shots to the head, knowing that they should have cut them off a long time ago and sent them home instead. So whether they slurring their words or they made up exactly what they said, it's their bullets from their gun, from their hand, from their disregard to their life that's like making them drive home drunk because they the reason they dead. So many of them think that they barbers. Y'all know how barbers bars, dude. Hey, you need a cut? What about you, homie? You good? You need a cut? Right there? No, maybe, no. They look for the worst lineup of blacks so that they can give them a fade. So they put extra clips in, they clip hers so they can take their caps off as if they're trying to see their waves. So many of them think they photographers, claiming that they see the big picture, but they'll never get it. Because they too busy shooting, snapping, and flashing at us as if we're photogenic. So many of them think that they're musicians, because they'll pull an instrument from their hip and let it sing as soon as it's hands on. On a black person, they'll call a whole SWAT team for a simple misdemeanor and got them looking like Luther the way that whole van draws. I said. On a black person, they'll call a whole SWAT team for a simple misdemeanor and got them looking like Luther the way that whole van draws. So many of them think they sell beverages. But we know that ain't accurate, because so many of them sell beverages, but we know that ain't accurate. They claim they walking around with them cans that got our name on it, but they don't work for Coca-Cola, and we damn sure didn't open Happiness. So many of them think that they're insurance salesmen, but that's the wrong claim, and this is definitely a false case. They want us to believe that with them, we're in good hands. But everybody in here knows that's what they all state. Don't mess me up, So many of them think that they chefs with onions, the way they got everybody crying. So many of them think that they bill collectors, the way they got everybody hiding. So many of them think that they comedians, the way they got everybody dying. Somebody in here, please. Stop me if I'm lying. What happened to them? What actually happened to them? What happened to the officers that would pull you to the side and talk to you as if you were their little cousin? Or what happened to the officers that would actually offer you advice in hopes that you learn from it? What happened to the officers that even if you did physically get out of line, they might tase them and cuff them, but instead we got officers that rather raise it and bust it, which is why we got innocent black kids out here dying for nothing. I hate that shit.
Come on.
And those of y'all that know me, you know that I don't hate anything. But I hate that an officer could take a kid's life by any means. I know they got protocols. I know that they too have families. But shooting first and fabricating stories just isn't an option. It can't be. They have to know that. And I know that they know this. I shouldn't have to hand them a slip for them to get a notice. I shouldn't have to hand them a slip for them to get to notice that half of these kids ain't even out here acting out and being belligerent. Nah. Some of them are just in the wrong place at the wrong time, minding their business with innocence. So every time they see an officer, they thinking, damn, why they always literally trying to get rid of me? They forever want to ghost me. That's that paranormal activity. But so many of these officers seem to ignore that message. And it triggers your curiosity to the point that you just have to question. Every time an innocent black kid dies, why do they spend so much time trying to slur his image? You've killed him. Haven't you done enough already? Aren't you finished? Got them looking for skeletons in his closet, but why the fuck you digging? Perhaps because making us look bad in the media was the plan from the very beginning. I get so tired of turning on the news and seeing all these cases. I'm like a doctor that couldn't save any lives. I no longer have any patience. So as I sit back and make this observation, I question myself like, where have all the brave went? Which is partially the reason why I chose to come up here and say this, and I hope that y'all can appreciate the amount of truth that's in this statement. That if we want to get together and make any relevant changes, then first we must become comfortable with having uncomfortable conversations.
That's right, yeah, that's real.
The ones about racist officers, tainted media, and how all of us need to discuss the responsibilities and the roles being played by our own people. We claim that we want and we need to come together and be more united, but the way that many of us treat each other is the reason why we're so divided, and it's also the reason why we're so closed-minded, and it's also the reason why we're so easily blinded by some of these black political leaders who are really just black and political, because the efforts that they put forth to leading is just so pitiful. Because after we elect them, the urgency to accomplish their promises is just so minimal. It amazes me how so many of them can give up on their own people and it be so blatant. How they can literally turn their backs to the issues because they just won't face it. So success or the options or the answers to the problems could be right there on their plate, but they still won't taste it. And instead they give us that bullshit, and we're supposed to be so complacent. We're being taken advantage and being taken for granted, and then we have the nerve to stay seated and act as though we just can't stand it. Why do we do that? Why do we choose to be so silent? Until we find an excuse and use it as a reason to be so violent. But in between those excuses, we choose to be so silent or so quiet, as if we have no voice. And then we get mad at the shit that happens and we accept it for what it is, as if we have no choice. But we do. We do have a choice. And it's going to take us a second as people before that notion is common. But they say that knowing is already solving half of the problem. So let me wrap this shit up by sharing some of this knowledge. Y'all with me?
Yeah.
First, the youth, even the troubled youth, are our future. So let's guide them right. Because they're not terrible people. They just who they are at this point in their life. So let's lead them. But let's lead them without the miss in front. Because once we mislead them, that's how we mistreat them. And that's something that neither of us need or want. So let's continue to lay that groundwork. Let's continue to show them the way. Show them that in order to better themselves, they need to do whatever it takes. So let's take them under our wing and even let them ride our waves so that they can be better prepared when it's their time to take the stage of life. Let's teach them to appreciate it and show them how to. Because if we don't, then they're going to keep growing up the way they have been and see no value. Secondly, these officers. I understand that it's hard to see a badge these days and look at it the same way. Because their slogan is to protect and serve, so some of them ought to be ashamed. When they come around, we're supposed to see the heroism and be amazed, but instead we can't help but to throw them hands up and be afraid. Why do we got to pull cameras out in order for them to change their approach and reaction? Why do we got to pull cameras out for them to change their approach and reaction? I'm not a director, so why they standing around acting like I just yelled action? Black people aren't your natural enemy, so you don't always have to get to cracking. You don't always have to get to snapping. I think it's time that both sides acknowledge racism for the beast that it is before we slay the kraken. Now, we can keep pointing out the wrong that they do and try to hold them accountable. But just know it's going to be hard because officers circle the system every day. So don't you think it'd be easy for them to get around it? But we can still try to reach out and show them that they don't have to do it. Because if they would cut down on the brutality, then we would cut down on the hate. And that in itself would be a drastic movement. Lastly, us. We claim that we know who we are, but we don't really know the power we have. We're quiet as individuals, but if we came together, we could be so much louder than that. I see the potential in our progression, but I know it could be so much better. We can overcome any negative circumstance if we just do it together. Changes only happen in stages. So for us to expect results overnight is just too outrageous. For us to expect results overnight, it's just too outrageous. There are limitless levels that consistency would guarantee that we make it. And I'm a creative designer, so I always see the bigger picture, but there ain't no Photoshop gonna change it. However, together, we're capable. And I hope that y'all are hearing this. I'm not joking because I ain't Joker. That's why I'm so serious. Like that? That's why I'm so serious. So don't let this world destroy you. Because if you want to do something, you got to do that shit for yourself. Nobody else can do it for you. Now, remember when I told y'all that I would tell you that code? Well, this is something that I think that you all should know. If y'all want change, then let's embrace the fact that none of us were the same as we were just a moment ago. Thank you.